Hello, students. I'm going to go over weeks 4, 5, and 6 and give an overview. And I thought it would just be helpful if you heard me talk through a couple of the assignments and then the process. So I'm going to start with week 4. That's currently hidden, but I'm going to open it up shortly. You will be taking several quizzes. And the APA quiz that you will take, just keep taking it until you get a perfect 100% score. And then the research design article analysis quiz is in 2 parts. You have to take part A before you can take part B. And remember, I really have out your research analysis journal because I want you to match up the articles that you read with the research design. And remember, in one of the announcements, I gave you the list of the 12 designs used for your articles in part 1, and you'll be asked to match those up, so the research design with the articles. Then you'll be participating in a VoiceThread group discussion, and I paired you up. You can see how I paired everyone up. I might have to go through because I see that I believe I still have a couple. Oops. I still have a couple of people who may have withdrawn from the course in these discussions. So I have to go back and look. But you can go ahead and click into wherever you're listed. So, for example, this one is Jesse Ben Blair. So if we click in and go down to Spark, and they were group number 1, and then they would just click in here. And you can see that I have it set up, and there is a series of questions, and you're going to respond to each question. And I would really like this to be a back and forth kind of dialogue, and you can respond via text, audio, video. It's really up to you. And then I'm also going to chime in at some point during this discussion because I have some questions, additional questions that I would like to discuss with all of you. Okay, so that's the Spark quiz. And then I have the APA document. It's a template for you to use to write your literature review because we have to keep on file this lit review for accreditation purposes, and it has to be in the APA template format. So please write your rough draft in that format. And then this next document is quite extensive. It's a helper sheet. It's actually reviewing some of the things you've already done, like conducting your searches, but it's also going through an overview of the different kinds of research that I'm sure all of you have found. But then what do you do when you sit down and you start planning to write your literature review? And let me see if I have it open here somewhere. Well, I don't, but I can go ahead and open this one up. So you can see I just give an overview, like what is a literature review, what is the content, so the different kinds of articles that you may have. Now it's important to note that this is not for a thesis or a dissertation or a empirical research article. So you're not going to reach the point of saturation where you have read every article, every source out there related to your topic, and then everyone's citing like everyone else, so you get to that point of saturation where you're not finding anything new. That's not what this class was about. What you did was research a topic or a problem or an issue that you were interested in, just to get an overview of that particular topic. And then hopefully you found maybe a gap or a pattern in the research, or maybe just the way, like, after reading through what you found, you had some insights in relation to what you've noticed in your own classroom or in your own school. And that's the point of this literature review for this particular class and assignment. So again, this is not like a thesis lit review or a empirical article lit review or a dissertation lit review. The next section is planning to write, and I go over what sorts of things that you should have been doing during this phase. So you've already conducted your search of literature, you've already evaluated um, and came up with a topic and evaluated the research. So now what you're going to be, and you've critically read, but I would also argue that at this point you should review the articles and at the very least review your evaluations of those articles. Then you're going to organize your thoughts. Some of you may want to put together a matrix, which I explain how to do in this section, or maybe an outline, but it's really up to you. That's not something I'm going to collect. The writing process is very different for each student. Some people work very well from an outline, while others just like to jump into it and they have a broad idea of how they want to approach their paper. Maybe they're using a mentor text, which I hope all of you have looked through the journals, the journal articles that you've read for your topic, and you have some idea for how you want to organize your literature review. I walk through how to write an argument statement, and I think that's about it for the planning. Then the actual writing. I take you through step by step how you should organize your paper and what should be included. The theoretical framework, you probably noticed in the articles that you've read, some people have a separate theory section where others integrate theory with the research in the area. It's really, just depends on your writing style as well as the journals that you may be submitting your writing to. Some of you may decide that you want to submit this lit review for publication, and I hope you do. Then it would just depend on what journal you would submit. I give you some suggestion and writing tips for the introduction and body of your paper. And then you're going to have a summary where you summarize your main points. You talk, this is where you're going to also maybe integrate your own experiences and any insights you've drawn from the synthesis of your literature. And then you're going to explain implications for education and practice. And possibly even do a call for future research in this area. And then your conclusion, what are your lasting thoughts that you want to leave your audience with? And if this, this is a standalone literature review, so you should make sure that you make clear how the literature has supported your point of view or your thesis, your argument statement. Now, if this was a dissertation or journal article, it would usually conclude with your research questions. But we're not writing that kind of literature review. I just wanted to include that information in case you ever do. And that's about it. Then this next section is the peer review process for your literature review. And this whole section, and I explain it right here, this whole section you're going to copy and paste after your references in your rough draft, in your literature review rough draft. So you can see that it's pretty extensive, and not every bullet point will apply to your paper, but a majority of them probably will. And then when you get down to the end here, I want you to come up with a question or comment or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. And these should direct your peer reviewers, like what you want your peer reviewers to look for in your paper, or maybe address concerns that you have. This is where you can write that. And then I always say that the peer review process should be like a sandwich, where in the beginning, let me go back up to the top here. After you read what your peer's paper for the first time, you're going to leave some positive feedback. That's a really great way to start the review. And then you go into the constructive criticism, where you're answering or addressing all of these questions about your peer's paper. And then you're going to top that sandwich with another positive, because it's really hard. It's easy to get defensive when we are reading criticism, constructive, and getting constructive feedback for our papers, but it's how we improve it as writers. I honestly believe this is the most important part of the writing process, is to get a couple more sets of eyes on your paper and to give you that critical feedback. The last part of this is peer editing. We're not going to do this as part of the class. I expect, of course, you to go over and do some self-editing, but I also strongly recommend that you take your paper when you're ready for this final part where you're editing all the last minute grammar, style, etc. That you take it to the writing center, and you could even give them this list and have them walk through the paper with you just to make sure that you have all of the editing errors addressed. And that's it. Um, this document is a lot of me, but it's also a lot of Belcher and Galvin's work, in which I kind of condensed and synthesized for you. If we were in a full 15-week course, I would have had you read both of these resources and use them in writing your papers, but there was just not time with a 6-week course. I think it would have put all of you on overload. So anyway, that's how I expect you to use the literature review process helper handout. And again, that's available to you right here. And I explain the process and what you need to do with your rough draft. So make sure you very carefully read through all of these directions. And then in week 5, this is where we're going to conduct our peer reviews. So again, read through these directions that I've provided. And once you have written your rough draft and copied and pasted that peer review revision checklist into your paper after your references, you're going to submit that into this forum. And so you can see that I've arranged 5 groups, and there are either 2 or 3 people in each group. So in every group, you'll at least get 1 peer review, but most groups, every person will get 2 peer reviews. And then you will download your peers' papers once they submit their rough draft here. And then I'm going to click on this first group here. You can see that you're going to, after you do each person's review, you're going to copy and paste that review as directed in this Google Doc. So Deanna, you would download both Holly's and Maria's rough drafts, and then you would carefully read their papers and answer all the peer review questions, and then you would copy and paste your response for Holly's paper here and Maria's paper here. And so this is where I will grade the peer reviews. Okay, and so this is also where your partners will be able to read their peer reviews of their papers. Okay, and that is the only job that we have for week 5, because I want everyone to get quality feedback on their papers. And then week 6, it's still going to be hidden from you because I'm in the process of creating my own VoiceThread that I model for you on how to complete your research design proposal. So once you view mine in VoiceThread, then you're going to create your own PowerPoints, and you're going to upload your PowerPoint into VoiceThread, and then you're going to narrate it just like I did mine. So you're going to have a model or a mentor text for how to do this. And you have a couple choices. You might take your literature review and go, okay, now if I was to do a research study, what would it look like? And you're going to put that into PowerPoint form, like I said, and then upload it in a VoiceThread and narrate it. So it's going to be this presentation to your peers. Once you do that, go and view a couple of your peers' proposals and give some constructive feedback via VoiceThread on those proposals. And then you also see a place to submit your final literature review. And this is after you've read your peer reviews, you've made your revisions, you've done self-editing, or maybe you've gone to the Writing Center for help with editing. You're going to submit your final draft here. And that's it. we'll be done with the semester, and all of you can breathe a sigh of relief because I know how intense these 6 week summer courses are. And then at the top, I haven't received the course eval link yet, but once I do, I will put that link here. Please complete the course evaluation. I take them very seriously. I really like hearing from students what worked, what didn't work. This is a 6 week intense class, so I know it was a lot of work, but just think you did 15 weeks worth of work in 6 weeks. So keep that in mind in your course evals, because I know students get a little afraid, and um, they, without fail, I usually get like, this was just too much work, but really it is pared down from a 15-week course. So just keep that in mind. And I think that's it. So if you have any questions, just let me know, and I will be opening up week 4 and week 5 right now after I close out of this. And then week 6, I will open up as soon as I get that VoiceThread mentor text done, the model for you. All right. Have a good rest of the semester, and I will see you in the virtual world.